Our Alacrity Renegade is one of the most underrated but very, very strong builds right now. To play not only in Fractals but even in raids it can be very good. It has plenty of CC, has amazing bursts and provides a lot of utility for its party while of course also upkeeping permanent alacrity. So if you're interested in that, be sure to watch the whole video to not miss out a thing about this amazing build. Thanks as always to my dear supporters that help me keep the lights on, and now without much further ado, let's jump straight in. I want to directly say here at the beginning, I want to promote this build and I want to tell you how it works. I did not come up with it. All the theory crafting and the rotation and stuff, credits to Snowcrows, Discretize and Shavi. Links to their websites in the description down below. But now with that much said, let's start with the gear. And this time we are on a special thing here because we are having two different builds. So we have the raid build and we have the fractal build, and they are different. And that's the important part, they are different. Why are they different? Because this Omni Potion in Fractals provides stats conversion and you will get concentration with 150 agony resistance. So if you have that, that means that you don't have to invest as much in concentration as you would go for the raid build. So we are starting here with the fractal build. If you are interested only in the raid guild for the gear, be sure to skip ahead in the timestamps. But now let's start with this and say, okay, we are using sword and staff. All of them are berserker. For your infusions, if you can afford them, you would go with mighty ones for power. You want to go force and impact on your sword, and you want to go force and severance on your staff. However, you can also replace the force here for absorption. So absorption would give you steal 3 boons when interrupting a foe, which is obviously really good as well in Fractals if you have no pain, no gain, and then you can manage that as Alacrity Renegade as well. But you really want to have the severance here for even more damage when you interrupt an enemy, which you also do, of course, if you use your staff 5. For your armor, you have to go with this mix. So Diviner Helm, Berserker Shoulders, Diviner Coat, Berserker Gloves, Dragon Leggings and Berserker Boots again. This mix gives you exactly the boon duration that you need with the Omni Potions. And of course, I admit, now with this free Omni Potion, this is way more achievable than before. 150 AR gives you 15% boon duration on top of that, so really, really good. You want to go with Superior of the Dragon Hunter, and you want to go, again, like I said, power infusions, if you can afford them. Then Relic of the Thief is very important. It's the best one that you can get, 5% permanent upkeeping, that's good. And then you take Diviner Amulet, 2 Dragon's Wings, 2 Berserker's Accessory, and 1 Dragon's Back piece. This is how you get this perfect setup to 75% crit rate, while also having the boon duration that you need to upkeep permanent alacrity. And, of course, with Fury you reach 100%. For your consumables, you would go with Cilantro Line Sous Steaks, just for more power and ferocity, and some more lifesteal on crit. If you can't afford that, you would of course go for bowls of sweet and spicy butternut squash soup, as always for power builds. For utility consumables, you would go with Superior Sharpening Stone or something that gives similar amount of power. I also want to mention, if you liked this video and found it helpful, be sure to leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. But now let's talk about the raiding build. For the raiding build, you don't have the Omni Potion, which converts obviously really nice the concentration from the agony resistance. You can't get that here, so that means that you have to go for higher concentration, as you can see here. How do you do that? You have to equip a lot of Diviner pieces, full Diviner armor with Dragon Hunter again, and you have to go for Diviner Backpack, Diviner Amulet, and Berserker Rings, as well as 1 Dragon and 1 Berserker Accessory. This exactly reaches 75% crit rate again, and 37% boon duration. For your weapons, again, you would go exactly the same. However, in longer fights, air pulls ahead. So you would go force and air again on your staff. You can go for polarization or something else here, or you can equip the same staff because the staff is not that important that you use in Fractals, but the most important one are the swords. Food stays the same, and Relic, of course, as well. So it would just change a little bit of how your armor and your accessories are set up. If you get higher agony resistance than 150, you can even drop more Diviner pieces and go for even more because it's still converted into more boon duration as well. But this is just the most basic build. Let me know if you need a more detailed guide about the Fractal Renegade version down below in the comments. Link to this version, extended version for raids and Fractals, as well as exotic versions, at least for raids, because in Fractals I admit you will probably have full ascended if you play high level Fractals, are in the description down below as well. For the traits, you want to go with Devastation, Invocation, and of course Renegade. Devastation gives you a lot of damage multipliers, some more vulnerability, tier access, more damage multipliers, like I said, even more damage multipliers, and more damage multipliers to targets above 80%, below 50%, and some more might, while also, of course, giving more power when you have instead of condition damage. So that's obviously quite nice for a power build. And you have Invocation. Invocation is more a utility trade line. Get some nice Fury. It's not that important. You deal more damage while you have Fury, another damage multiplier. Not that important here again. Then you get more damage while you're above a certain health threshold. Again, nice damage multiplier. Then you provide some wounds to your allies. Okay, quite nice. You're after all our offensive support builds, so getting more might and more resolution out helps. And then, of course, this is why you take this Charged Mist. That means when you swap below the energy threshold of 10, you get, instead of 50 by legend swapping, 25 on top. So that means 75. It means more energy to use for skills after that. So really important. Then, of course, have Renegade. Renegade gives you access to your F2, F3, F4 skill. They are really important, of course, for this orders from above for Alacrity. But we will cover that in later section of this video. And you have, again, nice multipliers here, more Fury. This trait is really important here, while you have to be very careful. You get very high crit chance increase when you have full endurance. So you really want to be careful with your dodge. When you have to dodge, of course, do that, but you don't waste your dodges, otherwise you will actually lose a lot of crit chance, especially in your burst, so be careful there. Then you get, of course, more damage and more Color's Favor. Color's Favor gives you more stacks, and there are some more damage multipliers. Then you will take All for One. It's obviously a nice damage buff, 15% damage buff that you try to upkeep all the time for the Legendary Renegade stance. Whenever you use them, you get some protection and also get the buff. And then Righteous Rebel is obviously really important, because that means that you can get permanent Alacrity with this build. That's the main thing. The other part is not that important. And also the radius is larger. That helps, of course, to cover more area here. You can, if your party struggles with Fury upkeep, you can go for Assassin's Presence and actually get some more Fury to your party. But it's obviously not always necessary, because a lot of support builds and even DPS builds nowadays provide Fury for their party. Now let's cover the skills quickly. Heroic Command is a nice might uptime if you want it. That's a very important damaging skill. Citadel Bombardment, you can use it to drain your energy very fast. Then you have Orders from Above, of course, very important. AoE, just instant cast Alacrity providing, and takes a little bit to ramp up the full Alacrity time, but it's very, very strong, very important. It's a single button to permanently keep Alacrity up. Then, of course, you have your sword skills. Auto attack really strong, lasted the best. Second and fourth and fifth ability, just a lot of damage. This one also mobilizes, and this one is a nice teleport on top of that. The 3 skill you would only use if you need an evade, or if you really want to waste your energy to swap again to your another legend. But this is more situational, I would say. Otherwise, it is an evade and be some damage. On staff, you would only swap to use the 5 skill typically, because it's nice in CC. But it's also an evade. The 3 skill is another block, and the 2 and the 4, they are both nice healing skills for you. So I will only use the staff typically for the CC. The Shiro Legend, let's start with this one because it's a little bit easier. So it's the healing skill, does some nice healing and some life siphon. You would typically not use the Riposting Shadows or the Phase Reversal in your rotation. They are both decent in utility. This is a Sunbreak and this is a Teleport, but you would use Impossible Odds because it drains your energy and makes your increased damage. You just strike another time when you deal damage. And then your last skill is the Elite Jade Winds, just a heavy CC. Use it if you really need a lot of CC, but otherwise never use it. Then for your Renegade stance, you have nice healing skill that is also really potent for your allies as well. Then you have some bleeding effect. You would not use that typically, or other than if you want to waste your energy to go below 10 energy. And then you have Ice vs. Ire, really important. A lot of damage, some vulnerability, and even some soft CC in there. And then you have the hard CC and the stun break here on the Dark Razor Staring. Also quite potent if you need a lot of CC, of course. And then lastly, you have a nice Siphon for your allies as well. That means that you can get some healing for your allies. You can use that if you need, again, to go below 10 energy. Or you just use it for some nice life siphon if the allies need some lifesteal. Now let's quickly cover the rotation. So the rotation is really important that you understand that you, first of all, of course, are the Alacrity support. So you really want to focus always instantly using Orders from Above to permanently have Alacrity up in your party. And then you are very burst focused. So it's all about the burst and the opener. If you get the opener right, then it's like 95% of the rotation is correct. It's really just about the opener. So the opener is really important. Let's start with this one. Start in Legendary Renegade stance and use your Shackling Wave. And while you cast it, use Orders from Above if you are in combat. Then you use Ice vs. Ire and swap to Legendary Assassin stance. Instantly use Impossible Odds. Use your 2 skill on swords. Use Citadel Bombardment and use your 5 skill on sword. And then you twice Chilling Isolation. And then you go into your loop. The loop would always look like either you would be in the Legendary Renegade stance or the Legendary Assassin stance. So let's start with Legendary Renegade stance. You use ISO SS IAS into Orders from Above and Chilling Isolation. Use your healing skill while casting your other skills so that you extend your All for One buff, because it's an instant cast after you use the first Renegade stance skill. Then you use Citadel Bombardment into Shackling Wave and Death Strike and Chilling Isolation into one last time ISO SS Aya, and then you swap. You instantly want to activate Impossible Odds into Chilling Isolation and Citadel Bombardment into Shackling Wave and Death Strike. This is the whole thing, and as soon as you're below 10 energy, you swap again in the other legend. Important part here is that you want to, first of all, if you're in Legendary Renegade stance, want to upkeep your Relic of the Thief, so you should delay your Chilling Isolation to get permanent, to refresh the stacks there, if that's gonna happen. Important part with the Orders from Above is that you have to be careful when to use it. So it will not always align with the Renegade stance, so you have to use it sometimes in Renegade stance, sometimes in Assassin stance. You should use it in the current stance if the current cooldown when swapping to a stance is below 12 seconds. Then you are expected to use it in this specific stance. If it's higher than that, you would use it in the other stance. If you do not use the Orders from Above in the Legendary Renegade stance, you can use Raise Glazer's Rage while replacing a cast of Chilling Isolation to get below the 10 energy, to get back to 75 after that. Or if you need Defiance Spark Break damage currently, then you can also replace the Chilling Isolation for Dark Razor Staring, or use Soul Cleave Summit for 3 seconds if your allies need some health. This is like the 3 options there to waste some energy, so to say, if you don't use Orders from Above in Legendary Renegade stance. If you use Orders from Above in Legendary Assassin stance, however, then you should skip the Citadel Bombardment and cast Chilling Isolation twice on top of that. And sometimes it might actually align that you can't use Shackling Wave, so your 4 and your Death Strike, your 5 skill on swords. In Assassin stance, then you should use your healing skill and your Unrelating Assault, like I mentioned, for the most damage. Or if you need more might for your allies, you can also use Heroic Command. Again, you really want to focus on going below 10 energy. A good tip here is to always use Citadel Bombardment, Shackling Wave and Death Strike for more burst and more control of your energy. And also, if you have both dodges up, you can actually get the crit chance for those. And after that, your most damaging skills are just mostly auto attack and the 2 skill on sword. So if you have to dodge, it's better to have that after you did your burst. So it's all about knowing the burst. If you need a lot of CC, typically you would use that on Staff and Color. So Dark Razor Staring into ISO SS Aya and Search of the Mist is a lot of CC. If you want to bring some stability, you can drop a lot of damage for going, for example, for the Dwarf stance, but only if it's really necessary. That costs a lot of your damage. I also want to mention there's an additional build that you can use. You could go for Greatsword and Sword and drop the Staff if you need no CC, but this is obviously something that is a little bit like more advanced, and you should be careful there if you don't know what you're doing. And this last part is you can also go in Fractals if no pain, no gain, and your Absorption Sigil is not enough. Then you should go for Legendary Demon stance so that you can use your Banish enchantment and get 3 boons removed from enemies instead of your Legendary Assassin stance. You always want to take Color though. There is another option in Fractals to actually drop Righteous Rebel, which increases your duration of Orders from Above. If you don't need that because you can pre-stack and the fights are very short, you can go for Vindication instead, which increases your damage. And therefore, in shorter fights, it's better because you don't need to provide Alacrity that often because you have this from the precast at the Mistlock. That can be a worthwhile change as well. Now, I think I covered everything. Like I said, be sure to check out the written guides on Snowcross and Discretize if you need to know more information. I also want to mention you can easily replace the Relic of the Thief with Relic of the Eagle so that you actually get a little bit more of a damage spike that can be worthwhile in Fractals mostly. But in the end, it will reach the same numbers most of the time. Let me know any questions in the comments down below. Thanks again to all my supporters. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.